Hi, good evening, everyone. A big hello to our viewers on this live broadcast joint session by VOH and BioRx Venture Advisors, a think tank for Indian healthcare. A quick introduction about me. My name is Vishal Gandhi, CEO and founder of BioRx Venture Advisors, an investment and strategic advisory firm dedicated to all facets of healthcare with special emphasis on digital healthcare. Founded in 2012 and had a good fortune to work with 80 plus clients on making their health tech businesses more investable. And recently, also I co-founded an Indian Healthcare Angel Forum to deepen our commitment to promote niche health tech companies. It's so wonderful to host this evening our Pharma business leader, Suresh Subramanian, who has served global MNCs in his last role as Biocon as a Southeast Asia head of branded formulation. Let's welcome Suresh and request Suresh to give his brief introduction. Over to you, Suresh, for about a minute.
Thanks, Vishal. It's been a pleasure, having you all today for the broadcast. Welcome. And about myself, I've been in the pharma world for about 38 years, and currently I work as a lead consultant for a digital healthcare solutions company called Indegene. We work across the commercial value chain, starting from R&D to regulatory to go-to-market solutions. And I also mentor a startup, and I'm a co-founder of another in the medtech area. So it's been a great journey and still continues to be in some ways doing very exciting things along with young, sharp minds. Happy to be here, Vishal.
Great, Suresh. And I think we couldn't have had a better person to speak about the topic, which we have very carefully chosen. And the topic, as all of you know, it's digital revolution driving commercial success for pharma and biotech organizations. And as I said, that we couldn't have had better person than Suresh to talk about the insights that how pharmaceutical and biotechnology organizations are driving digital transformation, and especially coming from his current role at Indegene. So let me step back and share a sort of a context. When I started my journey with Dabur Research Foundation as a research scientist in about 20 years back, getting an email set up in the organization would typically take 3 days to set up an email, and it required 3 approvals. And from that 2000 scenario to 2022 scenario, now you can actually virtually have an email creation in any company, for that matter, pharma or biotech, doesn't matter, in 3 seconds. And I think that is the acceleration, that's the transformation. And we all have seen that how digital transformation has really helped us to survive and thrive through this pandemic. And of course, digital is something which has been going on. But really, during the pandemic, it actually accelerated the strategy for all the pharma companies and biotech companies to not just think this as a cost center, but as a core pillar. I remember in 2001, 2, we used to have a strategic meetings, and everybody used to say R&D is not really a pillar, it's a cost center. But then slowly, we started realizing that R&D is actually a pillar. Sales and marketing is a pillar. Having a right finance team is a pillar. But I think today, the digital transformation team has also become a pillar for sustenance and scalability of a business. And today you can't think about businesses if you don't have scalability, you don't have sustainability. So I think we have very carefully chosen this topic. And as I said that, it's really great that we could have, Suresh agreeing to come and share his thoughts, on this particular on this particular topic. So I personally feel that there are many more dimensions that we could actually add onto this vertical, and but the one which I like him to share from his journey as a sales and marketing professional is about the buzzword called forecasting. So forecasting has been so much news to me. I would say that, because I have supported some of the digital healthcare startups. And, one of the reasons that anybody wants to engage with any digital healthcare startup is to see that how forecasting can be more closer to the actuals, because actuals is always lower than the forecasting. And I think most of the MNCs, for that matter, and of course large corporates in pharma and healthcare today, they really want to see that why there is a gap and what can we do to reduce the gap. And I think this is where having a robust digital transformation strategy would be very, very meaningful. And I would like Suresh to share his insights, because he's served for 30 years in sales and marketing. And so I'm sure he must have seen evolution of such tools. And so Suresh, it'll be really good if you could share for 2-3 minutes about your experience in last 30 years, has how it has evolved, and how the integration of digital tools has actually led to productivity enhancement.
Sure. Multiple questions in your overarching question. One is about forecasting, and the second is about incremental increase in productivity using digital tools. Uh, I would just want to say that forecasting has always been a bane in pharma, and the issue was that we used to go, on an ABC analysis, even for A-class products which had the highest turnover and frequent churn. We used to go wrong in forecasting those products by a margin of more than 10-15%, and that's horrifying, isn't it? An FMCG guy would laugh at it invariably brings in inefficiencies into the system of working with a larger inventory, and not being able to kind of move with the dynamics cycle of demand. It's more your feedback from the supply chain, which is kind of going awry because of overstocking and changes that you see in your forecast. And traditionally, forecast has always been left. There hasn't been a measure in the last mile. What you sell in towns, what you sell in, how it all aggregates to a district, and how it then aggregates to a state. Uh, the factors of, somewhere pharma selling stop. Like, for example, pharma would, I'm now talking more on pharma, uh, would kind of a secondary distribution, once it moves from the primary area, from the warehouses of the place where you produce. When secondary distribution takes over, it's just, an allocation is given and it goes to different parts of India. And very often, this allocation, if you may, when I joined the pharma, was based on everything that was in the head of the distribution manager, right? He would know trends of what he thought it was, of most SKUs, and he would kind of say, okay, I think this could sell this place more, so let's dispatch it more there. So it was all the feel, and the capability of one man in the organization was the distribution manager. And a little, probably the turn of, in the early 1990s, we came across an SNOP system where you definitely had inventory targets, at far off warehouses, and we would kind of match the sale to, so we would kind of back trend 6 months, and then forward trend based on a marketing program, what would be the approximate requirement, and then somewhere we would have a trade-off, and they would all be fed. If we had 32 C&Fs, from 32 C&Fs, we would kind of feed in our forecast, and that was it. And again, it didn't stop the forecast from going awry, because beyond the 32 C&Fs, or which were approximately one per state, and in some states we had one more. Uh, you still had to forecast at the bottommost tier, right? And that's when you get the forecast right and the distribution right. And it is now, where people are going and saying, okay, I want to, it's still like that. It's a guesswork, right? It's more on past sale, that in your last mile warehouse, that the distribution is done. But I think there are companies now, startups and new companies, like one I can think of, which I'm mentoring, GoAptive. They have connected all the chemists in the tier two areas, and in the tier one areas, and help companies distribute products. Now, by running their loyalty program, they have data, purchase trends of a whole lot of pharmaceutical products that go. They kind of juxtapose it with the potential, geo potential, which they measure out of each of these, you know, uh, hubs and their spokes. and are able to make sense between a past trend and what can be possible, and they track the movement. So it is these kind of new initiatives which actually tell you a different story and improve your forecast. So you can go
So
ahead
are you
and
saying
look at
that
what is the daily market share, weekly market share, and those things come as byproducts. So forecast and is essentially a baby of the traction that you have in the last mile.
Absolutely. I think from a gut feel to a data science driven approach like a predictive
Exactly.
analytics, and now topping up onto the techniques like blockchain to AI to machine learning, I think we will
Exactly.
get closer to the actual to forecasting. I think that's
Exactly.
where pharma companies typically should be able to, really
Yeah.
make good money and, of course, create impact. Because you can't have a scenario where you produce but if there's no uptake. Even that is
Yeah.
also not justifiable, right? So it's not about just the commercial success from a perspective of earning EBITDAs, but also to ensure that there is a right allocation for the right product. And I think
Not
which
only
is
that, Vishal. Uh, Not only that, Vishal. Sorry. I just what comes to my mind is the use of predictive surrogates. To kind of estimate demand and behavior of the customer. So when you actually look at data sciences, the way it has evolved, the use of these markers, what you might want to call as surrogates, enable a decent prediction of, like you were saying, if you're going to launch a new product, where is that the demand will kick up immediately, what would be some forecast that you can expect, is all something that you can put together with multiple surrogates to a reasonable sense of accuracy as well. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think that's very useful insight. As you mentioned, Suresh, that you are mentoring one or two startups in digital healthcare space. But like according to my own experience, because I've also worked in digital healthcare space and have been also associated with these companies, but I feel that there's one challenge that why they are not able to scale up business. There is a demand. Of course, pharma companies do recognize that definitely there's a strength to partner with digital healthcare. Whereas digital healthcare, even after receiving serious of amount of funding, which could be like up to the tune of even $100 million, but they're still not able to scale up the business. So, is there an issue between the contours of partnership, or the people don't want to see eye to eye because everybody thinks whose data is it my data or is it somebody else's data? So what is the structure which is required to be able to scale up such partnership? Because without that partnership, we will not be able to create an impact. And that's what I wanted to actually probe you to share your
Yeah.
insight.
No, you've really not only provoked me as well, because I feel, there was a question asked to a wise man, who will dominate pharma? Is it the companies with the best science, or is it the companies with the best marketing muscle, or what is it? And the answer that came out is the company that can produce the best outcome, right? Now, science doesn't guarantee outcome, and there is, as we all know, there is a ecosystem that is required. Now, in the ecosystem, who will add value or who will combine to add value? There is the data guy, there is the technology guy, there is the service provider, and there is the farmer, right? Now, the next question can be, who will dominate pharma, right? Is it going to be the technology guy? As of now, they think yes. Is it going to be the data guy? Uh, we are slowly. I mean, you saw what one tweet of Elon Musk did to WhatsApp, right? You had a crashing of signal, right? So
Absolutely.
exactly.
But
So
people are saying that even WhatsApp issue has become more hotter than even coronavirus since coming
exactly.
to that effect.
So people realize the power of data and what you can do. So is it the data? But it must be said that uh, one of the things, while each one of them fight and don't want to be an Intel Insight story and fight for prominence, COVID has, I think, brought a forcible, ecosystem together. Look at what has happened since the launch. You had Pfizer working with a biotech company, an academic organization, right? You had AstraZeneca working with Oxford. You had, you already are seeing such rare combinations coming together to make a possibility of a healthcare solution. In this case, the vaccine. And I'm sure if you are to cart a 70 minus 70 degrees vaccine across tropical and desert areas, you're going to require some very robust distribution partner, right? Who's specifically good in traction of the cold chain and is able to transport it long. So what is coming out is one person alone cannot bring about these outcomes, and to scale and succeed you must demonstrate outcomes. So,
Absolutely.
uh,
Couldn't agree
uh,
more with you. So
yeah,
I feel the partnerships is the future of biotech and pharma sector. And,
and
coming back
COVID
to,
has enhanced the capability or removed the barriers for coming together in collaboration. It's one of the
absolutely.
very important competencies that organizations and especially pharma will have to have.
But I have a strong hunch, and I like to predict that in 2030, I feel a company like Microsoft will be owning many more pharmaceutical companies because they've got so much of insights. If you look at the whole vaccination ecosystem, the way they have developed, and even Indian government has taken a benefit of that. I think it's phenomenal, And they said, now, why should we spend money on R&D? Because there is enough R&D happening. Let's try to spend money on distribution system. Let's try to think about other things which government is not able to think about. And as a result, I think Microsoft, through their Gates, Bill and Melinda Foundation, is doing terrific social impact work. And I think because of which they will have lots of insights which will make them capable to be able to earn billions of dollars further and
No, but I
transition.
think, Vishal, you need to see what's behind that. When you have a guy with a personal asset of close to 100 billion, naturally there will be a lot of eyeballs and glare on him and his wife. But behind the Melinda Gates Foundation is a service provider called Gavi, right? A Global Alliance for Vaccines.
Yes.
Then, along with them are companies like Pfizer, GSK, and a whole lot of companies that have collaborated to kind of get the cost of production to that level. They have
Yes.
innovated, and therefore it is that ecosystem that developed, which went on, a benefit to millions of people worldwide. And it's a great story of access that when a service provider and when a person with money and passion and pharma companies, so that's a different type of ecosystem which is impacting globally, right? With
Yes.
WHO also joining in some measure.
Yeah, and I'm glad to tell you that there is a parallel in India. There is an Indian citizen. Of course there may be many more, but I can right now share about Azim Premji. In fact, Azim Premji is the one who actually funded the Moderna vaccine. Much before anybody could do. And that's the vision, and that's the philanthropy, and that's the I would say love and passion to make a change. And this is really amazing. That we do have people even in India who are so committed to bring change and, of course, societal impact. And it's so wonderful. I didn't know that he had actually invested in such a venture, but when I got to know that, and I really had a lot of respect for him. That
I didn't know either. Thank you for the information.
yeah, because he didn't invest in any biotech pharma company in India, but he went in investing in a US company, which is doing such a path-breaking research. So it's about passion, it's about really serving the need, and that was phenomenal. So coming back to my favorite topic, I've actually had a good fortune to support a company on their sale of process almost like 4 years or 5 years back. To a Dabur funded company called Healthcare at Home. And this company that I was supporting called Health Impetus. And Health Impetus was offering a solutions to pharmaceutical companies called patient adherence solution. And that's how my understanding about, forecasting and of course other tools improved, because I was trying to sell his services like as a company. And I felt that, this is such a transformative need for any pharma company. And so, what do you think? That are the tools for patient adherence has changed over a period of time, considering there's a relaxation, there is a more synergy between the IT partner, and of course drug regulators have also become more reconciled, with the fact that data has to go back from a pharmacovigilance perspective, or from a perspective of various other issues which were not existent before 2015. So, any insights on patient adherence would be very, very helpful.
Yeah, see, in fact, if you really talk about the patient journey and the outcomes, if you want to call that broader journey as adherence, adherence starts from accessing the right treatment to all the way managing your treatment and till you get a better planned outcome as a real time, you achieve that. So there are many companies that kind of work on adherence, right? One is the type where you give information. A lot of these digital therapeutics or apps, if you may, healthcare apps, are focused in that area. I remember Biocon investing in a company called Insulia, which is a US FDA app for treating diabetes, right? And US FDA has approved apps, which had the ability to demonstrate outcomes to reduce HB1C by 2 percentage points, right?
That's phenomenal.
So
So, is it
that's
something called
phenomenal.
digital therapeutics?
No, I'm talking about the broad category as digital therapeutics, but
Okay.
there's one company called Wealthy. There is another.
Healthy therapeutics. Yeah.
Yes, the other one called Insulia, which is now, as I said, Biocon is invested in, and they kind of collaborate with caregivers. Like, for example, I don't know if you have been following some of the congressional hearings on pricing of insulin last year in the US, right? It's a hot topic then. And Eli Lilly brought one, debate to the table, saying that you can't replace Eli Lilly insulins with a generic. You can't switch because Eli Lilly operates in a system, an ecosystem which is digital. It informs the patient, it records the patient's dose, it informs the doctor, and there is care that is personalized and given to the patient. And so they made a case saying that it's not about cost of the drug, it is the outcome that the patient gets to pay more for, right? So they say that inappropriate outcomes actually result in more cost being spent. Now the point is whether there is legitimacy in that argument of switching with generics or no. That's another point. But the fact of the matter is that there is an ecosystem that pharma companies are tying up with digital therapeutics in this case to improve outcomes.
Yeah, I
You
think
look at
bottom
some
line.
of the other companies. Just one other point is that in India you have the famous angel investor Ganesh and Meena Ganesh, right? They started a company called Portia,
Yeah.
right? And
They
that's
invested actually in Portia.
you invested. All right.
I think they invested in
They
Portia. Portia
invested. Yeah, they
was
started the
somebody else.
company. Exactly.
Yeah. I have.
Yeah. So, I had the opportunity to hear him in one of the meetings, and clearly their business during this pandemic has just doubled, right? So there are people who are unable to travel. It's not doubled; it's gone many x, right? So I think to their credit, they one of the things they did was tie up with caregivers, the hospitals and the doctors, right? On the other hand, they were able to meet the demands of the doctors through technology, the ability to oversee remotely, the ability to provide technology that will monitor the patient after a certain process. So they've improved through technology home care. And today, you're even talking about chemotherapy and some forms of dialysis, which these guys can go home and do. And that's
Yeah.
an amazing thing. So those are, again, different parts of the pie for, adherence, if you may. So
Yes.
these, in fact, are some places, and there are many more. There are companies like Librate, 1MG, who have a different business model. They operate from getting you interviews to doctors through telehealth or direct consultation. They manage the patient and manage the doctor, and kind of take you to the doctor who can go with your requirement. So they kind of honed it up with their AI tools, and they have a nice model running. So there are multiple these digital players in the entire value chain, if you may, who play on this adherence.
Absolutely. So I think home healthcare and digital healthcare goes hand in hand. So home healthcare players have actually partnered with the digital healthcare players to be able to cross sell and actually create that impact which is
Look at
required.
e-pharmacy, right? E-pharmacy is into everything. They help you with diagnostics. There's a phlebotomist who comes to your house. There's a not only delivery, they even send doctors if you want to. Uh, uh, all your tests are being done, and they also have a teleconsult portal, right? So, and I'm sure they're going
Absolutely.
to
If
have
you want to
treatment
take a nurse
algorithms.
for a week, they do have an option to even take a nurse for a week, and
Yes,
they probably
exactly.
have a system either, back-ended integrated or front-ended integrated with home healthcare players. And I think it's a natural synergy and which is working out well. And eventually, I feel that that's a great combination, and of course, to create a good societal impact. And that's why home healthcare, if you look at last 5 years, it really delivered a lot of promise, but then it couldn't really create that value. And as you said yourself a couple of minutes back, that the pandemic gave them a new lease of life, and they could actually grew by 3 times, 5 times just because of the pandemic. And you never know, this will become a new normal, right? So people
Right.
taking the services at home will become new normal, which people never thought, they could never imagine. And I think it's about reimagining next. And I feel home healthcare will certainly take advantage of that scenario.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
So I think
Vishal, we have around 3 minutes, I think.
yes, yes. So I would, like to ask you to share your views about what is the missing link in the overall ecosystem today. From a policy perspective, from a healthcare delivery perspective, anything that you feel that is still very missing, which doesn't connect, and it's still sitting as a silo. And in order to produce a great impact, what is required to be done by all the stakeholders? If you could share your insights on that.
Yeah, I think India's healthcare problems start with allocation of funds, right? We kind of up 1.9% to GDP, which is really not much, which is a very poor low, even lower than Bangladesh, if you may,
Yeah,
and
but
and
I've been told that it has gone up to 2.2%.
it
So which
has.
is a positive sign.
I haven't seen it. Still is lower than Bangladesh, and but that's a good sign. It's going up. But I think the missing link is when government walks its talk. Uh, you know, uh, there are two very nice things that are happening. One is the empowerment of the National Health Authority and the formation of the National Digital Health Mission. Uh, you know. And in the other juxtaposition, you have the Ayushman Bharat clinics being set up for treating NCDs and primary care. So, National Health Authority's primary task is to kind of make sure that the PMJ insurance works, right? And it can only work if the National Digital Health Mission is a success, right? It talks about first patient identity, the individual identity. It talks about electronic healthcare records, personal healthcare records. It talks about connecting all, areas of providing care, treatment and care, which is your district hospital, your primary healthcare center, to a specialty hospital. So these are very important digitizations that will have to take care if the insurance has to work. And if so, that is at one end, the so that is how good is the government going to be in walking its talk in the PMJ insurance authored by the MHA, and in all the four pillars that they have talked about in digitizing electronic health records, having individual identity. Today, if you see the migration of people, from Delhi and Bombay in other parts of the country back into the northeast and northeast, I mean, suddenly the digitization will provide healthcare for everybody, and this is why this is very important. And when you're taking care of this with insurance and the capabilities on ground, you have. So that is one link. I won't say it's missing, but it's something that the government will have to really get hold of. That clearly is once that happens, you will find a lot of private players coming in as well, right? To setting up telecalling, telehealth centers. We have, an approximately one doctor for every 1,800 patients, population. Now, ideal is to get it to 1,000. And you don't need a doctor. You can have a digital person sitting on the far end and kind of managing with with the doctor population you have. So technology can be an answer to disrupt the doctor patient population and give healthcare to all. So, in short, if you want to say, I would say that the role and responsibility of walking the talk of NHA and NDHM, along with using technology in the last mile to kind of bring more patients into the treatment pool. They are some of the things that and working out a framework for private-public partnership, which is so important, right? Today, there is suspicion of the
Which has
government's
not worked in
intention.
healthcare, Suresh, which has not worked in healthcare. So I hope you
But
have a secret recipe for that.
Niti Ayog, I have attended a meeting in Niti Ayog, which exactly talks about a framework under which, the concerned parties that come together can do seamless business with. So the word is still out. Whether that works or not, whether that pans out, brings in more transparency and trust,
Yeah.
we will have to see. So those, I
Yeah.
think, are some of the missing
Good
links.
luck. Good luck to all of us, I would say. Yeah.
Yes,
So thank you so much for those brilliant insights, Suresh. And I'm going to pause here. And I wish we could go on this truly engaging discussion. But
it's been
unfortunately,
wonderful,
the
Vishal.
time we have today, I think strictly we were told to finish at 5:30, and we are almost 2 minutes, up and there. So thank you so much, Suresh, once again for
Thank
illuminating
you.
and inspiring session. And I'm
Thank you
sure.
for being a wonderful host as well.
Yeah, and I'm sure all the points and themes we touched upon really provoke positive thinking and trigger some timely interventions within the healthcare community, in India and around the world. And I think we can all play an important role in taking this all forward together. And I'd
Yes.
like to also thank our viewers and audience like me who are grateful for sharing, your precious time and esteemed opinions with us. We hope to have you again with us. And dear viewers, we at VOH and BioRx really appreciate your tuning in today. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. And with that, let's say bye to each other. Take care.
Thank you for having
All
me, and
right.
thank you, viewers.
Thank you. All right. Bye.